choosing to be present in every situation. In past, I couldn't have this conversation because I was so on edge. It's so freaking hard to admit that you need help.
Most people, unfortunately, won't lean into it. They won't go all the way. They'll go part way, it gets too hard, whatever, and then they retreat back into the old patterns, which then creates this larger divide of not being enough. But it's like, you have to burn it all away. You can't have one foot in your old life and one foot in the new. It doesn't work.
From the time I was a little kid, I was never enough, and I was told things like, stop crying or I'll give you things to cry about. So I grew up, you don't have emotion. You keep that crap in. You don't show it. You don't let it out. Well, then I'm a 35, 40-year-old man who's completely dysregulated, has normal human emotions, and feels shame every time I feel them. Choosing to be present in every situation. Right now, the only thing that matters to me is this conversation, because I choose that. In past, I couldn't have this conversation and have a clear mind and think and answer these questions because I was so on edge. I got to go do this, I got to go do that. But now I made a choice, I made a commitment that I'm going to sit down, I'm going to give you an X amount of time, and we're here. And I'm clear and I'm calm. So that's what alignment is to me. It's so freaking hard to admit that you need help.
Most people, unfortunately, won't lean into it. They won't go all the way. They'll go part way, it gets too hard, whatever, and then they retreat back into the old patterns, which then creates this larger divide of not being enough. But it's like, you have to burn it all away. You can't have one foot in your old life and one foot in the new. It doesn't work.
From the time I was a little kid, I was never enough, and I was told things like, stop crying or I'll give you things to cry about. So I grew up, you don't have emotion. You keep that crap in. You don't show it. You don't let it out. Well, then I'm a 35, 40-year-old man who's completely dysregulated, has normal human emotions, and feels shame every time I feel them.
Welcome to the Burn Up Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Nugent. Stoked for this episode today with Jeff Lowe with Bonded Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Jeff, you reminded me, you and I met at a podcasting group here, a few months ago, and we've connected online, and I've really appreciated, some of the things that you've shared. You've interacted with my content. We're both kind of in the space of helping men be the best version of themselves, creating community. And let's start off on this and really around worthiness.
Yeah.
For those of you that follow me closely, I preach from the rafters that worth should never be in question, period. Like, there is no fine print. It is not outside of us. It doesn't matter what religious leaders or your family or society tells you, that your worth is there, and you have inherent worth to, you are worthy of anything and everything you want.
Yeah, and it's innate and it is in you. I've tried to wrap my brain around this topic for so long, and I just can't help but think, if somebody tells you, or an organization or a person, that you're not enough, they want something from you. You should not necessarily run, but you should ask a lot of questions. If someone's trying to make you feel like you're not enough, I would slow your roll and look, what do they want?
Yeah, I'm kind of paused here. I'm contemplating what you just said.
That's
because there's
fine.
a lot of wisdom in what you just said.
It's taken me a long time to get there, and I'm not set on it. But right now, my thought on any person or organization, no matter what or where, if they're trying to tell you you're not enough, right now I think they want something. Why would anyone anywhere try and tell someone that they're not enough? You look at women's rights. Back in the day, right? Why would men be so harsh on women, and why would they suppress women so hard? If women are no threat, why suppress them, right? It's like, because I wanted something from them.
Fascinating. Yeah. And the one, so I will say this, like, I believe we're worthy, and I'll even go as far as saying deserving, right? And this is the one part of it that I'm not necessarily stuck, set on either, right? Because I say that, but somebody can be living an honest life, doing all the things right, and yet still continuing to hit roadblocks, not hitting their goals or whatever happens to be, right? And so you could argue like, well, listen, you're deserving of this, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're still not going to get the thing or be the man, But I also believe like worth should never be in question. For me today, I'm choosing to be like, hey, listen, you deserve whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you got to earn it. Earn, what I mean by earn is like, let's take money, for example.
Yeah, because I think we're talking about two different things here.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm skipping ahead, right? Because I've replayed this whole, like, this flow of worthiness to deserving to earning. So let's come back to the worth thing, because I want to get ahead of myself, because this is such a real critical important, because, and I was sharing with you previously, what I have found that, you probably felt the same way. It's not like we're walking around consciously thinking I'm not worthy. When I was married, when I finally went to therapy, the therapist looked at me and she goes, Adam, do you feel worthy of love? No one had ever asked me that question. I had never even considered it. And I usually have an opinion or a belief around something, and I sat there silent. She threw a curveball that I was not ready for, and my silence was the answer. I didn't.
It was. But instead of walking around telling ourselves we're not worthy, we're thinking, I'm not likable. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And what that really means is I don't feel like I'm worthy for those things.
Yeah.
That's how it manifests itself in a day-to-day basis.
It's camouflaged in that way.
Yeah, until someone does the work to really get to know themselves.
Yeah. And which I love that you feel that way. And I'm guessing here, you said you launched Bonded Brotherhood about a year and a half ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in early spring of 2025.
And you've had several hundred men either on a regular basis or come to events that you've hosted. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. We're probably 400 to 500 at this point, and I host men's night out, and I'll do camping retreats and all sorts of different things. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of guys come to those, as well as up in Logan, Utah, in the Cache Valley area, we have an in-person community. Right now, it's kind of the core of what Bonded Brotherhood is. And we've got, 25, 35 guys that it's a subscription-based thing. And they're showing up to almost every event. We're using apps to stay in touch with each other. There's guys checking in, getting to know each other's families, going to dinner, going to do things. And these are guys that were completely lonely, that had nobody. And now they've got a community.
Have you found that there's been a common theme is we're starting here on work that many of these men have lacked self-worth?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it comes from so many places. And there's a lot of guys that really want to dig in and figure out, where did this come from? And I think that in some cases there's value in finding out, why do I not value myself? Why do I not think I'm worthy? Other times I think, depending on the situation, you got to let that go. Sometimes there's no value in digging up where that's coming from until you start to look in yourself and you realize it's always been inside of me, right? It's always been the story that I've told myself. And I point this out to guys all the time. I had a conversation with a guy the other day who is an entrepreneur. He owns several businesses. He's an amazing husband. I've seen him around his kids. Like, he's just a solid dude and has such a hard time seeing that he has any value, any worth. I start talking to him about his worth and he just tears up. He cannot handle the fact that he might have worth himself. And so we talk about, I'll ask him a question and I'll say, okay, you're in this situation and somebody will say A, B, C to you and it will make you feel, D or whatever. What is it about you that what just happened to you makes you feel that way? Stop trying to externalize it. Stop trying to say my wife made me mad. Stop trying to say this customer made me mad. What is it about you that when a customer interacted with you that way, it made you sad? It made you feel shame. It made you feel like, even though you did a perfect job, something inside of you said, oh, I probably didn't do good enough. So it's not about outside. It's not about finding the thing. It's, what is it about me that when I'm in certain situations, I feel like not enough?
Yeah, and what I have found through a very painful process in finding my quote-unquote worth, that the irony in that it was never really to be found. It was there the whole entire time.
There you go.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to, I don't mean to jump way ahead in here, but that's when you got to get into the shadow work. That's when you have to go back, and I found this through IFS therapy. I met a guy at I went to a Here Brotherhood retreat a while back, and I met a guy there who was a therapist who's big into IFS. And
for our listeners, what does IFS stand for?
It's Internal Family Systems. And so I actually did a podcast with him. We did a 2-part episode on the Bonded Bros podcast where he ran me through a session. And it's up if anybody wants to hear about it and learn more about it. But he took me back. He got me in this kind of meditative state and guided me back to a situation in my life that I experienced that was really painful. And I was able to identify how old I was, where I was, what it was, and I'm feeling it again as if I'm that little kid again. But this time I got to have a conversation with that little kid, right? And there's so much to it. I can't even start to do it justice. But there's so much power in getting to know yourself and realizing the problems are inside of myself and the solutions are inside of myself. We just have to put down the shame and speak up and ask for help and find. And I got desperate and I started trying all sorts of different things.
What
And
led to that desperation?
ooh, I was miserable. I I can back up a little bit and summarize
Because I think
kind
this
of my
is,
story.
and
Yeah,
the
go
reason I
ahead.
want to go here is, you know, it it's hard for a man just to be so open and raw, right? And to admit that he has problems, admit that he's doing things that he's not proud of,
Yeah.
and I don't care what it is. You across whatever spectrum of what do you ever think is the most heinous thing to the most innocent thing, at the end of the day, everybody has something. And I always tell people, I'm like, you know what that makes you? I did a presentation here a couple months ago to an investment group down in Arizona, and I was talking specifically about porn and porn usage, I go, what type of man, or like, for a man that's engaging in this behavior, what does that make him? And it was fascinating. 3 or 4 people yelled out, "A sinner! He's a sinner!"
They really said that out
Literally
loud.
said that out loud. And I go, no, actually, he's human,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like everybody has something, and we tie our worth, we tie our identity to the thing, and the reality is it's a behavioral pattern, right? Now, this whole concept of like, I know, like, take AA for example, right? It's the most successful. It's been around the longest for people that have, and they've helped literally millions of people. I mean, I've got a good client, frankly, it saved him. I mean, he is actively involved in it. But him today, he's been sober for 13 years. If he goes to a meeting, the meeting starts like, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm an addict." It's still their identity. I do not connect with that. Personally, it's like, I was an addict. That's something that I did. That's not who I am. But literally, they're reinforcing that. And to each their own. This is my own opinion. But I don't believe that we are our past or we are the things that we do. There just happens to be behaviors. And when we can detach the behavior that we're not proud of with who we are, I mean, that's where the magic, that's where you can really start to separate it. So when you said the word desperation, right? And again, I didn't mean to cut off. I just
You're
kind of
good.
wanted to kind of lead into that.
Yeah. My desperation came from my absolute overwhelming pain that I felt on a daily basis for years and years and years. And I was searching for anything. I was searching for relief. And I can sit here, I turned 50 just a couple weeks ago, and I sit here and have a conversation with you, and I'm amazed that I'm still here. Like, absolutely, how in the world did I? Number one, I'm not smart enough to have been successful as I am. And number two, why am I still on planet Earth? Like, it's not because of me. It's not. I've been guided, led along the way, and I'm frustrated because I don't know by who and I don't know by what. But I'm getting off on a tangent there. But I was in pain for the better part of 20 years. I was running. I graduated from college. I went into education. I was a school teacher. I'd been teaching school for about 2 months, and I'm like, oh, I made more money, doing concrete, being a concrete finisher when I was in college. And so I went out and got another job, and then I started another business. So I'm teaching school all day, and I'm running a business at night. And then the business took off, and I'm running employees during the day. In between classes, I'm calling and texting my employees, and after school. And I went the better part of 15 years where I'm up at 5 o'clock, go to the gym, come home, get ready for school, go to school. And most of the time I wouldn't even go home after school. I'd have my truck loaded up to go do some work or go do sales appointments or whatever. And I get home 10, 11 at night, do some paperwork, and go to bed. And that was my life. And Saturdays were no different, except for it just wasn't school. And that was me for 15 years. And I was so miserable. And I didn't know that I was running. The thought that I was so out of alignment, the thought that I'm missing life didn't even cross my mind.
What is alignment when you say that? You're out of alignment.
I didn't know that word then, but I can see it now.
And I'm stopping that because I use that
Yeah.
word a lot. And so
Yeah.
just like to articulate that.
I think alignment for me now is making my choices on how I'm going to present myself for the day, right? It's what's important to me, and then, okay, this is important to me, so what decisions do I need to make to show and live in alignment that I'm doing the things that are important to me, whether it's everything, right? And whether it's trying to learn, whether it's time with my wife, whether it's time with my kids, whether it's, okay, this is a season I have to work, and I'm consciously making those choices. That's me living in alignment instead of just
Making conscious decisions.
yeah, being and choosing to be present in every situation. Right now, the only thing that matters to me is this conversation, because I choose that. In the past, I couldn't have this conversation and have a clear mind and think and answer these questions because I was so on edge. I got to go do this, I got to go do that. But now I made a choice, I made a commitment that I'm going to sit down, I'm going to give you an X amount of time, and we're here. And I'm clear and I'm calm. And so that's what alignment is to me.
What did running look like to you?
Running was keeping myself so freaking busy that I didn't have time to stop or think or feel. But what would happen was I'd have a random Tuesday night that I'd get home at 8 o'clock at night, and I didn't know what to do.
Yep.
I had no idea what to do. There were multiple times where and this is embarrassing, but it's my life. There were multiple times when that would happen throughout the 15-year period that I would find myself laying in a bathtub trying so hard not to slice my legs open. Because in my mind, I knew that pain would come out. I knew that the pain would come out of wherever I cut myself. I'm laying there just writhing in pain, and my wife's out in the living room with our 3 little kids, and I can hear them laughing, and I'm just in there, just a mess, just tears.
Did she have any idea?
She had no idea. She had no idea.
We're really good at hiding that, aren't we?
We're so good, and because I thought something was
But
wrong with me.
many times we also think we're good at hiding it, and we're not. But
Yeah, and I think that she had no idea of that, but she knew that something was wrong with me. But she didn't know what. I didn't know what. So how could she know when I didn't, right? All she knew was that I was never home and that I was short-tempered and I had a lot of demands, and like I was a miserable person myself, and so I'm sure the people that I was around didn't enjoy being around me.
yeah, I literally just wrote an article on this. My theme that I was a guest on a podcast, and it just so happened to be the same kind of theme that I was writing about and posting about last week. Is literally who's the man that comes home? What does the family get? Right? We show up, we give our all to the world, but does our family get the leftovers? Right? Especially when we're not living in alignment and we're going 100 miles an hour. We come home and it's like what do we give them? And when I was married, I was, my very disconnected, very unhealthy marriage. Work was my identity. I was slaying it. I was literally, it's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. I was one guy at work, and then I came home and the polarity was off. I mean, my wife was in charge. I was a shell of who I was outside of the home. And I was short-tempered with my kids. I would project my insecurities onto them. I mean, at that time, I was morbidly obese. I hated the guy in the mirror. Didn't like him. Hated him, really. And so short-tempered. So I was there physically. I was physically in the home, but emotionally, mentally checked out. And, and it's interesting. I had conversations with my ex-wife after getting divorced. I mean, divorced like 8 years, and we could get into a space to talk about it. And her belief to this day is that I hated her. And couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
But that's her. And so that's not true, but that was her experience because of the energy that I was giving off a lot of the time. And what was happening is I was angry. But the anger was a secondary emotion of what was going on in the inside. I was lonely. I was disconnected. I mean, what I truly wanted was connection with my wife. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel appreciated. But the reality is like, I didn't love me. I didn't appreciate me. And I was, unbeknownst to me, I was outsourcing my quote unquote worth and my happiness into her, super codependent.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing we should talk about.
And so unaware. I did not have awareness. And I am a core believer, like we cannot change anything. If we're not aware of it, we can't change it without awareness. Like, you can't expect somebody to change. But then all of a sudden, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, it's this whole healing or up leveling or changing or transformation. I mean, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And so, yeah, but I was really, and we can segue into this, like this whole codependent thing. I was codependent in life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I shared with this whole thought before we started the podcast, even my business. Like, I literally, I'm not going to use the word embarrassed, but literally, like, I would tell my guy, like, you need to be a chameleon. You need to, like, show up this way for this person and that way for that person. You just take politics, for example. If I had a client come into my office that was uber Republican, I'd always poke the bear because I had fun with that. But I'd never truly share how I felt. On the flip side, if somebody came in way to the left, I'd poke, have fun with it, but I would never truly share how I felt, because I'm like, well, what if I believe totally different than them? Then they're not going to want to invest with me, or they're not going to want to do this. And so literally I would shape shift in meetings and literally try to tell my team to be that, which is wild, you know. And I know I'm not alone in that.
No, you're not at all.
You know, I think most people, even in the business world, it's like, I got to get the sale, I got to show up, but it's like, it's exhausting. The mask. I call it wearing the mask.
Yeah, 100%. It's wearing a mask. It's being in character all the time.
Yeah.
It's absolutely exhausting, you know. And then, oh, yeah, I forgot my thought. I had something I was going to say, but I can't remember where I was going.
But you got to a place where you're like, enough is enough. I mean, laying, I can't even imagine like years of that, laying in the tub just to let go, just the release, to let go of, like, just, again, we as men, right? We're gripping so tight. And then did you finally get to the space where you just kind of let go?
Yeah.
And it's the shedding and all of that. It's so painful. It's so painful.
It is.
And yet it's the most freeing thing that any one of us can do.
And it's absolutely crucial that we do, you know. And there were, I'll share two stories. There's two times where when I 100% had my suicide plans, I knew what I was going to do. The first one, my oldest son was probably 4 or 5 years old. And I got home, it was in the summertime, so I wasn't teaching school, and I came home for a little bit during the day, and I was just so, you know, I can't even put into words how dark and heavy and desperate and sad, and it's just the pain. I can see now I was just in physical pain. And I thought, today's the day. And I knew where I was going to go. I knew what I was going to do. I knew when someone was going to find me. My wife was in laying on our bed, putting our daughter to sleep. And my older son was in his room taking a nap. And it's just quiet. And I thought, as good a time as any. And I get up and I quietly walk out the back door and go into the garage, quiet to shut the door to not let anybody know I'm leaving. And I had opened the door to my car and was in the process of sitting down in my car. And the garage door opens, and there's my son. He came running out, screaming. I'm like, Daddy, don't go. Where are you going? Don't go. Don't go. Where are you going? And he'd never done that before, and he's never done it since. And I was a mess. I just like I'm going to literally kill myself, and here comes my 4-year-old son screaming in a panic out of his bedroom to come find me. And so I just pick him up and I just start bawling. He has no idea, you know. And I'm like, I love you, bud. You know, I won't leave you. You know, we're okay. And I go in the house and I'm sitting there, and 10 minutes later, I'm watching cartoons with him and playing and watching him laugh. And I'm so disconnected because right now I'm playing with my son, and I'm so full of love for him, and I'm recognizing that probably God just saved my life by waking him up, but I'm still in pain. So I'm just so conflicted. So what do? I commit myself to work more. Like, okay, I can handle this.
It's because that's what you know.
That's what I knew. And my entire worth was in my bank account. My entire worth was, can I take my wife and kids on vacation? My entire worth was, what can I do for other people? I was so hopeful that if I give enough and do enough, that someone will finally see me and love me. And the whole time I was loved, and I was too blind to see it because
Oh,
I didn't
you're,
love.
you're literally
because
just sharing my life right now,
because
brother.
I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
I didn't, and it took me. Fast forward from that. See that my oldest son now it'll be 23 in a couple weeks, and he's such a guy, such an amazing kid. Like I'm just so freaking blessed. Like my wife, my kids. I can't believe that they stuck with me. I can't. And but you ask what desperation, I forget the word that that I used that you asked me to define,
That
but
was it.
that's, I was so desperate. I was in so much pain, had absolutely no identity. The thought of self-worth, it could have been Chinese. Like I didn't know, I'd never thought it, I'd never heard it. I wouldn't know the definition. Like it was so foreign to me. All I had ever known was from the time I was a little kid, I was never enough, I was in the way, and I grew up with that story. And I was told things like, stop crying or I'll give you things to cry about. So I grew up, you don't have emotion. You keep that crap in. You don't show it, you don't let it out. Well, then I'm a 35, 40-year-old man who's completely dysregulated, has normal human emotions, and feels shame every time I feel them. That's desperation.
Was that your core childhood wound that you were not enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mine. It,
Yeah.
it is generational. It was my
Yeah.
father's. It was his father's before him, and that's nipped with my boys in my generation.
Yeah.
And it took me into early 40s to actually work through that. You know, and it's interesting. There's so many parallels with our lives because my dad my dad was raised in an alcoholic home, a lot of emotional and mental abuse that went on, and he was the go-between. So my dad is so triggered to this day with any sort of conflict. So when we were raised, conflict was not okay. We were not allowed to, if we had feelings or thoughts, it was nipped. I never saw my parents argue. They always went to a back room. So I never saw any of this stuff.
Wow.
And so if we ever had discussions, it's like it was his way. It stopped. So no one ever got to be able to resolve or work through anything. So conflict resolution. So I get married, we're having conflict, and I think something's wrong from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was trained, not, my dad didn't consciously do this, but like that conflict is bad. That nothing was ever modeled for me for healthy conflict resolution, ever. Yeah. And so whenever there was conflict, I took it personal. It hit the wound. It would hit the wound. It would hit my wound that I'm not enough. I'd beat myself up. I wouldn't share how I felt. I didn't use my voice. And then eventually the pressure of not using my voice would build and build and build. And then I would just unleash like a bomb and just completely vomit on stuff that could have happened weeks or months before, and even onto my wife. And she's like, where the hell did this come from? And I'm just so, I've just bottled it all up.
Yeah, and and that comes out in such a stupid time. Like I walk in and I shut the door and I don't shut it all the way and the wind blows it open. I'm like, that's the time that I decide that everything that's been pissing me off for the last month is coming out. That's enough.
Yep.
It's coming out now. And everybody thinks, why is Dad mad over the door? Right? I'm like, I didn't know. It's wild what hindsight can teach me. But in the moment, I had no idea about anything other than pain and work. And I hope somebody someday will love me.
Well, and that's the thing is whatever the modality is that any one of us turns to, you know, you use the word running. To me, running is we're numbing it out.
Yes.
Right? We're silencing it. So for me, most of my life, it was food. Food was the drug. Eating was the addiction. There were bouts where pornography, and then later on in life, there was just something new for me. I would shift from some sort of vice, if you will, and I would argue that everyone, to a degree, has an addictive personality in them somewhere. I don't care who you are. We're all addicts, you know, and you could be addicted to drama. You could be addicted to social media, Netflix, porn, video games, like sex, money, working out, like. You know, it's like, what's the reason for it? And so my gauge to me today is like, if I'm engaging in something and I'm checking out, I'm aware of it. So if I'm using something to check out, that's a no for me. That's who I am today.
Yeah.
Because I've spent so many seasons of my life checked out.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that way anymore. I want to feel it. You gave the example of, You had to finally feel it. Like through that therapy that you went through, it's like it's painful, but you got to feel it to heal it. That's the way to be able to release it. You can't bury it, because the longer we bury it, it then gets manifested in our body.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I had a long-term relationship after my marriage, and she said something that to me is gospel. It's like, your physical body is an outward manifestation of what's going on in the inside. So many of us, like anyone that I look at carrying, especially a lot of weight, I have a lot of empathy for men specifically that are carrying a lot of weight, because yes, it's diet and exercise. The formula is simple, but like, what's behind it? Why do you turn to food to manage and regulate your emotions? There's pain. You're using food to to numb the pain, or to just relief, really. Just give me a minute, And the truth of the matter is, every time you turn to the thing, whatever that is, you're just prolonging it. You're kicking the can down the road. And then it creates the shame cycle. And then many times we as men will find something else, that will, I used to say that there was this parallel between porn and food for me, that it was like they were gateway drugs to each one. So if I ever engaged in one, I'd feel like shit. So then I turned to the other to numb the pain of that. And then, it was like the slippery slope, and where it's like, oh, I feel guilty. I'm feeling shame. I'm going to go I don't want to feel this. So rather than just being like, oh, I screwed up, fell back into a pattern, it's expected, let it go. I fell off the horse. I don't need, but for so much of my life, I would fall off the horse. I'd let the horse kick my face into the mud, and I'd stay down there for who knows how long, until finally, out of pure exhaustion or desperation, I pulled myself up.
Yeah. Or I got caught. Like, I was lucky if I got caught, right? Like, I can finally have this conversation because I got caught. That's part of it too.
Yeah, which is, I think that's a lot of the reasons men will have affairs or cheat or whatever. It's like unconsciously they want it to end, or they can't deal with it. And so it's like almost, it's weird. It doesn't make sense, versus just having the conversation. But then it's like, then it happens, but somewhere deep rooted, it's like you want it to be over. You want it to come out anyway. It's like, if I get busted, then our minds can play wild tricks on us,
Well, yeah, you can see it in people's reckless behavior. When people start to really get reckless with different things in their life, I'm like, that person is really at risk. As reckless as they're living their life and as reckless as they're making decisions, it really, really makes me concerned for what's going on, right?
See, to me,
that person is in so much pain. They're so close.
See, the root of a midlife crisis, I'm convinced for a man to have we call it a midlife crisis, right? Mm-hmm. He goes and does the things, he checks the boxes, he's going to be happy, he's making the money, has the family, everything on paper's there. Everything that society said, hey, this is going to make you whole, this is you finally made it. And there's an emptiness that he can't name. And so it's like really what was happening is like he's filling voids with all the things that society says what your worth is, what your identity is. And then you get to a place, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, I did everything I was supposed to. I'm a good person. I did all these things. It's not working. And then the pain of sitting in that's what men many times will self-destruct their life, and they'll go buy the thing or have the affair or do whatever, because they're just like almost as an unconscious way of like, this isn't working. And they self-sabotage because the whole entire time is they were feeling this worth, if you will, outsourcing it. And I always say, like, most men, their business has been monetized off a wound from when they were a little kid.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about that, and it's so hard to watch. For me now, working with men, it makes me so sad when I'll have a conversation with a man and he's explaining the pain that he's in, and he's explaining how he lives his life. And what alignment and presence has given me, like we talked about before, is empathy. And oh my goodness. So I just think what you're doing and what we're trying to build with Bonded Brotherhood, it's based off of real life experience, which brought pure love and empathy so that we can help other men. Like, that's literally all I think about. I just, and I'm fast forwarding and I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but as I found value in myself, as I finally took a fresh, deep breath of cold air and it filled my body, and I thought, my value is not out there. My value will never be how somebody treats me. I'm chasing something that doesn't exist. I have to love myself first. And that first big I visualize it as walking outside on a crystal, like a January morning in northern Utah. Clear blue skies, sub-zero temperatures, and that big, fresh, cold air that just fills your lungs and you feel it inside of you. Once I felt that, and I felt alive, and my value was inside of me, all I could think about was helping other men. And I think it's so common. I think it's so common that men finally make it out, luckily make it out, and just want to share, you know? And I think that's why I have so much respect for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. And, well, yeah, because we know both sides of it.
Yeah.
I know the pain. Like, that's honestly the greatest gift that I have to anyone that I work with is I know their pain.
Yeah.
Like the specifics around may or may not be different, but I just know their pain. And so I also know what the cost of continuing down that path, where it's going to lead, or what's possible. And, you know, it's interesting many times, and it sounds like you didn't do it. Like, I blew up my life. Right. And it's rare. I have a new client I'm working with right now that's literally making some conscious choices so early. I'm blown away by it. I've yet to see this. He's he's late 20s, so he's young. I'm obsessed with this guy already, because he's noticing these little cracks, if you will, in his own personal foundation of who he is as a man. And he's ready to address them before they come crevices like the Grand Canyon, you know. And many times we as men, it has to get so bad, right? Your word, desperation. Because more often than not, many times people won't change until the pain of their current situation exceeds the pain of change.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Say that again.
Until the pain of your current situation, whatever that is, exceeds the pain that it's going to take to change, most people don't change. Right? And think about growth. We use words like growth and up-leveling, transformation. Well, any sort of growth requires a rupture. It requires uncomfortableness. There has to be some sort of a mechanism or some sort of variable, if you will, that's going to trigger that. Something's not off. Something's off. Something's, if we were in a constant state of ecstasy and orgasmic state all the time, like, we honestly would go crazy. Like, it's embracing both sides of it. And so when something's off, or we're hitting a ceiling, or that's the gift. That's the trigger. That's the sign. That's where it's like, oh, something's off. What is this? What do I need to look at? What do I need to look at? And growth requires expansion. And I said this and I say this, I'm such an advocate for this, that transformation or up-leveling or being more of who we want to be or having more of what we want to be, the first thing that has to happen, it's not about doing more. It's about doing less. It's about letting go. It's what is holding us back from having what we want, being what we want. And it's the release and the letting go of that is the most painful, because our identity is tied to it.
I need to learn more about that. And we're having a wide open conversation. Yeah. I have been not obsessed. That's way too dramatic, but I've been ruminating for 2, maybe 3 months about the idea of submitting. And I don't know, all I know was the religious connotation to it, right? And I think...
Well, what's your definition of submission?
That's what I'm trying to work out, right? Like, I'm not giving up. I feel like I'm supposed to submit to something. And so I've toyed around with this. I'm like, does that mean I need to unlearn all of the things that taught me that submission is, like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's all over the place, but for some reason, and whenever a thought continues to pop into my head, I recognize this may be coming from somewhere. I don't know the source. I do believe in a God and I believe in a purpose. I don't know what that is. But I always try and be open enough that when a thought continues to come to me, to give it time and to give it space. And that's what I've been doing with that idea. And I've talked to several different guys in the group. I've talked to my wife. Like, I've talked to so many people the last couple of months about what does this mean, right? And I was hunting deer last weekend down in southern Utah, and I got up super early, and I had to hike into this spot, and I knew I was going to get there way earlier than I needed to. But I wanted to spend time in the dark. I wanted to spend time before the sun came up. With the moon phase, there was just hardly any moon. It was dark, and the stars were out. And I just sat up there on this hill after I hiked my butt clear up to this spot, and I just sat there and looked at the stars, and this was on my mind. Submission. What am I supposed to submit to? What does it mean? And it's interesting to me that you offered another perspective on it right here. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
And I ended up writing my wife this big long text about, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. Thank you for sticking with me for the last 26 years. And it was in that moment that I was up there on and there's a whole nother lesson there, right, about making time for yourself, but I don't want to get into that right now. I want to stay on topic with the submission, but do you have any thoughts?
No, 100%. I have tons of thoughts because this is, and I'll share this. This is something that literally just happened this weekend with my oldest son. So I'm a huge advocate for, when appropriate, for the use of plant medicine and psychedelics when appropriate. And who you're with, I'll just give this disclaimer: if you've never done it, have someone that has experience. I mean, I'm just, this isn't just something carte blanche you just step into. But I've got a lot of experiences, and I had a one-on-one experience with my oldest son, and it was such a beautiful thing to kind of guide, and very connected for us, to hold space for him, for his any feeling, some feelings he had towards me, and it was very connected. But the big thing that he really was head on, he's like, I don't quit. I don't quit. And I said, and I will fight to the end. And I'm like, so what happens what does it mean if you lose, right? What does it mean if you have to submit? What is failure, right? Because we have this attachment to this, like, even as you're contemplating this, and trust me, I've gone through this, like, I've ad nauseum, as far as submission, letting go, accepting, or whatever. Because what I have found for me is I can move through things so much more easily now because I don't attach my identity to it at all. It just is. It's the acceptance of what is. Because what happens is, let's take a business deal, right? We put so much heart and energy. Let's say you spent 6 months putting together a proposal for whatever you do in business, and and you've got this whole thing. You're going to make $1 million on this deal. It's like, it's in the bag. You're counting on it, all the different things. You put so much time into it. You present the deal. The client's giving you every indication that they are going to buy from you. And then you're celebrating before the money's there. It's like, this is in the bag. And they come back and say, actually, we decided to go another direction. 6 months, time, energy, right? So many times, like that example, it's like, now what, right? I've counted on it. I've done this. And then all of a sudden you get the no. And then then our head gets flooded with, like, what did I do wrong? Could have missed. And then it's like, then we start to beat ourselves up. But energetically, what's happening is the door just closed. The door is closed. And yet we're trying to metaphorically pound on the door. We go back and we try to get this back. We try to get this back, right? And it's like, but the door's locked. It's deadbolted, and we're pounding on the door so hard, and it's creating so much pain. It's creating so much suffering because it didn't happen like we wanted it to, or what we thought it was going to happen. And when we put so much energy into that door being closed, what we don't realize or see is that to the right of us, there's 10 other doors that are open. We just can't see them. And that could be in dating too, right? A marriage ends, or it's like fighting. No one gets married planning on getting divorced. But the fighting of it, or the resisting of what is, when you finally, I actually like the word submit. When you just submit to, like, it is, I don't like it. It's painful. It hurts. But when the submission actually creates the space to be able to, like, shift your head, maybe it's just a little bit, to notice the other doors that are open. And so it's the letting go. I've found that in my own life, that anytime, and I told this to my son, and I will tell this to anybody, if somebody is stuck, I don't care where it is in their life, the first thing, there's two things. One, where am I out of alignment with my core values? And two is like, what do I need to let go of?
There you go.
What and again, right, we have this expectation that certain things are going to look a certain way, and nothing ever works out the way we think it is, which is so ironic, right? And it's the pain of it not happening, and that's what gets us so upset. But when we can accept, it's like, I don't know. Like even the concept of God. Like I love, like the truth is, I will say this confidently. None of us know.
No.
I don't care what you believe. It's like none of us actually truly know. You know, I've seen godlike experiences in medicine, outside of medicine, and all different forms of shapes and sizes. Like, and I don't know, and it's okay that I don't know.
Absolutely.
And if you're so fixated on what you know, and it's not that, you can't. Why does someone have a hard time even sitting with the whole idea of like I don't know? Because what does that say about them? Because their identity is tied to it. It's all identity rooted. It's all rooted in identity. So this whole idea of submission, if you want something, my default now is if I'm stuck, if I'm frustrated, something's not working out, my default now, because I've worked with the men that I work with and in my own life, I stop and I'm like, what do I need to let go of? What am I holding on to? I just got to let, and I told my son this, I'm like, you're gripped so tight because he's like a Duracell bunny. He is crushing his business, but it's go, 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 go. I'm like, brother, son, you got to let go and trust that there's this divine, universal, beautiful gift, God, whatever, that's here to support you. You don't have to do it all alone. You don't have to solve every single problem. And if you take on that mentality, you're gonna frustrate yourself, and you're gonna think less than, or that you're actually blocking what's meant to come into your life. Submission is a superpower, but it's not tying our worth to it. And there is a time to fight, there is a time to push, and there's just a time to retreat. And knowing when to do that, I believe, can only come through experience. But I'm in a season like I would way rather, depends on what it is, but when it comes to who I want to be, my default is to retreat, assess, and then move as needed.
I love that. Yeah, because I do that day to day on a micro scale, right? Somebody cuts me off, or my wife says something, or, whatever. And I automatically feel upset or some emotion. I've trained myself, the first thing I do is to pause. Create space between the stimulus and what I'm going to do. Just create that space. And you're doing the same thing, but on a larger scale. You said you're retreating. You also could be describing it as you're creating space between what's going on and how you're going to act. I'm going to create space, make my choices, get in alignment, and move in a direction that I'm aligned with.
And as my son and I worked through this for hours on Sunday, he said something. He goes, I haven't felt this light, and I don't know how long, his words. And what it was just a whole process of him gripping and then just being okay, letting it go, even in just the split minute energetically, just creating the space. And it doesn't necessarily need to mean I'm going to retreat for weeks or months or whatever. I'm going to go be a monk somewhere. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like letting go, just like, I don't know. And then just trust. And again, it's so funny too, because nothing ever works out exactly how, and literally in any part of our life, it usually takes longer. It's going to take more. But what I've learned through a lot of pain is that every painful thing is actually a gift in disguise, and it's led me to who I am today. I wouldn't trade anything from my past. Very painful. I wouldn't trade any of it, but when you're in it, it sucks.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's a interesting concept there. I think back as you're having this, you're sharing this about different experiences that I've been through, jobs that I've lost, relationships, I deeply, deeply love my two older brothers, and I haven't spoke to them in years. And it hurts, right? But going through those hard things in the moment, I'm thinking this is the biggest thing that has ever taken place in my life. Now with time and space, I can look back and think I learned so much from going through those experiences. And I like the way that your son described it. I'm light, I'm free, I'm in alignment, I'm making my choices. So one of the things that I tell guys all the time is like, if you're overwhelmed, if you're feeling so heavy, if you're feeling the pain, the angst, however you want to describe it, give it time. Don't make any hard decisions right now. Give it time. Create space, talk, be open. You've got a whole group of dudes right here. We're going to listen. We're going to support you. We're going to give you input. But don't make any decisions right now.
Yeah, take your foot off the accelerator. I mean, you and I we both had the accelerator pinned for 15 plus years, and it's like, let it off. And then just like, what do I need to let go of? And the letting go, it's more often than not, it's stories or beliefs.
Absolutely,
right?
It is.
Behaviors, addictive patterns, people. It could be family. I mean, the list, it depends. It could be all of the above. And it's the pain of it's the shedding that creates the most pain. That's what creates the suffering but then when you can work through it and then your identity's not tied to it, then when new things come in and if it leaves, you don't attach to it as much.
Yeah.
And it's the attachment to it. Again, it's just the letting go. So I actually love that you use the word submission and that you're sitting with this. Like my invitation to you is like lean into it. Like where else do I need to submit? I had a guy that was following me on, and I would talk about vulnerability all the time. And he came up to me at an event a couple years ago. He goes, "Stop using that word. Vulnerability is weakness. Men do not show weakness." And he kind of caught me I'm not even the same guy I was then, right? But it kind of threw me. So I had to kind of sit with that. I was really triggered by it. And it's like, am I showing weakness? Got to be the man. And it's like, I feel like I am, do I have weaknesses? Of course I do. I'm human, but I don't feel like, I feel like I'm more confident than most men. I'm not weak, but I have no problem sharing the shadow side of me. I have no problem sharing that because my identity's not tied to that.
Yes.
So will I submit? Sure. Doesn't mean anything less. If I put my foot in my mouth or I say something I'm not proud of, I'll own it. Like accountability is my core value. There's been plenty of seasons where I wasn't accountable. I know the pain of both sides of it. Like I'm choosing today. Accountability matters to me. So I want people in my life that will reflect back to me. Because I want to be better. I want to get stung. I've had way too many 7-degree burns in my life. I will take a 1st-degree burn all day long.
Yeah.
Like, okay, thanks. Bring the analogy I'll use all the time is like with bowling. Little kid puts the bumpers up, right? Little kid throws the ball and it hits the side and then it hits it hard, then it kind of bounces back to the other side. And then with time, maybe it stays more in the middle. I've surrounded myself with people that I have bumper pads, if you will, in my life that when I'm out of alignment, maybe I don't see it, I'm out of integrity, whatever it happens to be, I want people to like check me. Like they're the guardrail. So I'll take the sting. Sometimes it really stings and then the ball overcorrects to the other side. Then it stings a little bit on the other side. But like I'm getting better and better and I don't have the pain that I used to. I don't have the regret. I don't have the shame. I'm not carrying any of that because I'm living in alignment to my core values. And what I have found the best thing to do, honestly, is just like, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to do less of? It's wild. It's totally counterintuitive to what society teaches us. But there's so much freedom in it. But if you've never done it, like, hey, it's like, let's go back to where you were, like in that desperation and metaphorically saying, you know what, Jeff, you just take your foot off the accelerator. Just stop. Think about even conceptually thinking that you could even possibly do that. It's foreign.
Yeah. My dad even told me when I was in that, and he came over one day and we're talking, and he's like, you sure are working a lot. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, he's proud of me. He sees it. He sees how much I'm working. He's finally going to say it or show it or whatever, and he's like, you've got a wife and 3 pretty awesome kids at home. You should maybe slow down and spend some time with them. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Absolutely no idea. It went in one ear and out the other. And I just thought, Boomer, you don't get it. I'm building something. You have no idea what I'm doing. And he was the one that was right.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it. I knew he was wrong. I thought, you just don't get it. And I've talked to my sisters about this. I was pretty hard on my dad because he didn't want more. He was fine. He was content with very little. And that frustrated me. But now I look at it and think, okay, maybe he got some of those parts right.
And to each his own, and even like let him be him, and you get to be you.
Yeah, I don't have to. I don't have to live his life. It's the same thing I tell my own kids. And my oldest son got married last year, and in his wedding speech, I said that. I said, "You are under no obligation to follow my path. This is your life. Lead, make your own path. Follow your heart. Find out what your values are. Live in your alignment. You're under no obligation to follow me, to follow your in-laws, to follow your mom. Like, this is your experience, and it's so important that every man out there finds what their values are for themselves, not what they've been told, their own values, what lights them up. When you've been doing different things in your life and you feel so happy and free, what were you doing? Those are your values. Find your values and live in alignment with those things, right?
I love that.
And so to me, I love having conversations like this with other men. I love helping men get out of the suck, right? Like, that's one of my values. And I found that's one of my personal core values because that's when I feel alive. And I recognize that in myself, thought, okay, I now identify that that is one of my values. That's how I'm going to make decisions on how I spend my day based on how alive I feel when I'm doing things like that.
Yeah.
So guys need to pay attention.
Yeah, and
We
I'm
need
sure
to-
they're. I'm
go
sorry, I
ahead.
mean, no, I was gonna say, and I'm sure there's people listening to this and they're hearing this. It's like, oh my gosh, I connect with that. Connect with that. It's like it's okay to not be okay. It's okay that you have shit. It's okay that things are off. Everybody gets off. Everybody has something. We need to normalize that it's okay. So, and also let's not necessarily keep you in that. We need awareness around it. Now, what do we do with it? Right? Once you have the awareness, right? It's like, okay, now what am I going to do? Because if you don't do anything, if you have awareness around something, you did have awareness before, and then you don't do anything, trust me, you're going to have more anxiety, more depressed.
Yeah.
You'll get deeper into a shame cycle. It's going to get uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. Like, this is the part of the very beginning where I was talking about earning. It's like, you have to earn some of this stuff. Like, if you're physically out of shape like me, if you're over 100 pounds overweight, like, you got to earn it. It's going to be uncomfortable. I mean, for me, it took decades of abusing my body to think that I'm going to lose it in 90 days is insane. So it's like, yeah, it takes time. And like, you got to just one day at a time. I love that you said here, I'm just here present. That's a big thing for me too. It's like, all I have is right now in this moment. I don't know what's going to happen an hour from now, tomorrow. And I was so caught up in the future and so much anxiety or thinking about the past. And it's like, and meditation's a big practice for me today. And it's like, I want to quiet, and it centers me back. It's like, hey, I'm back home, Adam. All right, now what's the next best step?
There you go. So there's a couple things that I want to go back and
Please,
speak
yeah.
to. One of them is doing work, right? You can fight it as much as you want, but for some reason, the order of this world requires work. And so if you're going to think that there's some easy magic pill or quick fix that's going to bring you true happiness and peace, it does not exist. It requires work. It does. I look at nature. I look at a robin, and I've used this example with other people in the past. You go outside in the spring and you watch birds building a nest frantically, flying back and forth, getting sticks and mud and stuff and building a nest. That's actual work. It's beautiful, and they're like, oh, cool, I found a bird's nest. But then you step back, you zoom out, and look at what that bird had to do to produce its nest. That's a lot of back and forth in those little wings and that little beak. So why do I think that I don't have to do work in my life also? Okay? And going back to that guy that called you out that men aren't vulnerable, bull crap. Dude, the strongest, here's how I've got to this point. What are the things that are the hardest for me to do? And one of them at one point was to be vulnerable. I thought, okay, that is something that is so hard for me to do, I have to do it. The hardest thing for me to do was to be vulnerable, and it's brought me the biggest blessings of my life. I put out the very first episode of the Bonded Brotherhood podcast came out the first week of July last year. And I really opened up about my past, about my life, about what I wanted to build with Bonded Brotherhood. And I'd been thinking for a month, what am I going to say in this episode? How open am I really going to be? And I was pretty open. And we went through the whole works of producing it and getting it all cleaned up and stuff. And so I had 2 weeks from the time we recorded it till the time it went out, and I was a nervous wreck. I almost called the producer. I'm like, just cancel it. We're not doing a podcast, And we put it out, and I turned my phone off and went on vacation with my family. And I told my wife, do not let me get on my phone unless I have to. I'm on vacation. I want to be here with you guys. Similar to the story that you told. And man, when I finally did get on my phone, we were at the beach with my kids and my couple of my kids. They were like, we're going to go down here and get a slushie or something. I can't remember what it was. And I told my wife, I'm going to go for a walk. I got to check my phone. I felt like I needed to so that I could be present. I'm like, this is distracting me in my head. That was just an excuse, right? But I went and checked my phone. I'm walking down the boardwalk in San Diego, right by Coronado Island, just across there. And I look at my phone, and the people that I was most terrified about, in my head, I had told myself, this person's going to hear me talking and think that I'm such a wimp. This person's going to lose all respect for me because I've presented myself as this hard guy, right? I'm a worker. I'm a hunter. I do this. I do that. Like that's who I am, and I surround myself with some pretty incredible people that are just hard in life. And I was really concerned about them knowing that I've struggled. And they're the first ones that reached out to me in tears, thanking me for speaking up. And that changed me. I thought, oh my gosh, men everywhere are struggling with something. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be valued. And this is something I go back and forth on. It is absolutely number one critical that we value ourselves, that we love ourselves. It is also, if not equally, maybe second slightly behind, we do need people in our life that respect us and value us. We are not meant to live in a silo. We're not meant to be alone. It's like what you're building. You've got all these men that you can have these conversations with, your relationship with your kids, right? Like all of this, we're not meant to be alone, which leads me to the relationships that so many men find themselves in where they allow themselves to be the doormat.
Oh, yeah.
Men allow themselves to be the doormat in relationships because they don't value themselves, or they're afraid of what will happen if I finally show who I really am. What will happen if I stand up for myself and say, no, actually, we're not going there for dinner tonight? In a nice, kind, loving way, like, don't be a dick, but, like, man, you've got to stop being a doormat. If you're looking for one place to start looking for ways that you can stand up for yourself in the day-to-day.
Yeah, and using your voice. And the key thing is, I think we talked about this before we got started, is not bottling it up, because then it just comes out and then you vomit all over, like say in your marriage or whatever, right? So just like, I don't want to go there. And it's okay that you don't agree, let or disagree, whatever. It doesn't mean anything about you.
No.
But again, if someone, like, I didn't use my voice, and it takes practice.
It does.
And so it's not like one day as we're talking about, hey, I'm going to use my voice, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, here we are. And,
No.
Depending upon how old you are and how long and the history, so many things factor into it. But
good point.
But at the end of the day, you got to start somewhere. Nothing will change until you change. And two things here, kind of as we wrap up, and then I want to kind of let you know, our listeners, or have you tell our listeners where they can find you and be a part of this, of your organization. Two things come to mind. Is when you shared, just like the example I gave before we started the podcast of when I was so raw and real for the first time on social, right? You the vulnerability, whatever, or the things that you shared, you shared truth.
Yes.
And they say this: the truth will set you free. Always, the truth will set you free, and the truth. You cannot outrun the truth. So whatever you're hiding, you think you're not going to say, it's going to come out. Maybe it's never even spoken, but it'll come out physically, mentally, emotionally. It'll show up somewhere else in your life. But by speaking the truth and owning all parts of yourself, you've referenced the shadow work previously, right? Getting comfortable with the darkness. We all have a serial killer in us. We all have darkness. I'll go as far as saying the devil or Satan is actually, all of us have that inside of us. It's not outside of us. Stop blaming some other feature or something else. It's each and every one of us. But when you start to embrace that and understand that we all have that side of us, and learning how to work with it, and it's not your identity, that's where magic happens. It's painful, but when you can speak it and you can own it, it'll set you free. And my tagline is freedom is in the fire. You stepped into the fire. Every time we step into the fire, there's freedom there. Everything we want is on the other side of what we're avoiding. And none of us want to get burned, trust me. But at the same time, I'd rather get scorched and burn away whatever's holding me back and go through the pain of that than versus not living an authentic, integrous life, because I know both sides of it, and I refuse to be that guy. That part of me has been burned away. Painful. Wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it set me free.
Isn't that a wild concept that, speaking of counterintuitive, that the most painful things are the things that bring you the most peace, that bring you value, that are guiding your life right now? And I think back to times in my life that were so dark, so heavy, so painful, and I feel the same way. Like, I hate that I went through it, but...
Do you?
I hate that I felt it. It was hard.
Do you still? I'm going to challenge you on that. Do you hate that you felt it?
No. Thanks for challenging me. I don't.
I mean, you didn't like it. It was painful.
It was very painful, and maybe I don't have the vocabulary for it, but you're absolutely right. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the peace, I wouldn't have the clarity, I wouldn't have the knowledge, I wouldn't have the alignment if I didn't go through it. But I had to go through it, and I had to not give up, and I had to be open, and I had to be vulnerable, and I had to admit that I needed help. And I think some of the things that are holding men back today are just that so many men can relate to the pain, but it's so freaking hard to admit that you need help.
And most people, unfortunately, won't lean into it. They won't go all the way. They'll go part way. It gets too hard, whatever, and then they retreat back into the old patterns, which then creates this larger divide of not being enough. The shame cycle kicks in, but it's like you have to burn it all away. You can't have 1 foot in your old life and 1 foot in the new. It doesn't work. I've tried it. You have to fully step in and literally let it burn away. You like scorched. Like there is no transformation is not possible. Again, it's the cracks. If there's any cracks, you got to fill them. You got to eliminate it. Otherwise, you will hinder your growth and who you'll become. You will hold yourself back unless you're willing to completely step all the way in. Literally, it's like standing naked in front of a stadium in front of 60,000 people. But if you're out, I mean, you got to get to the point to where you're willing to do that. But if you're sitting out there and you're still wearing, you got a swimsuit on, or hey, you just got your pants on but your shirt on, like it's still, scary. But like rip it off, stand there and just take it and it'll pass. Temporary pain leads to a lifetime of freedom.
That's beautiful.
Jeff, where can our listeners, I mean, you've got your own podcast. We'll put it in the show notes too where people can access, but you've got your own podcast, your group. We have a lot of listeners that are outside of just the state of Utah, but for those that are here locally, they can be a part of your group, in person. Do you do a virtual thing as well so people can tie into that don't live in Cache Valley?
No, we don't, and I toyed around with doing that, but it's so important to me, and this is probably holding us back, but it's making us so unique, as I want the people in the group to actually know each other. I want them to be in the same community. I want them to get to know each other's families. I want them to be able to go to lunch with each other. I want this to be an actual real-life community. So we've chosen for now to not have an online component of it.
And I'm an advocate for that too, because I'm a big believer in that there's more magic in person.
Yeah.
Right. And I've done the online thing, and it kind of wasn't my thing either. To teach their own, but for those that are in Utah, as you and I are getting to know each other, I'm an advocate for what you're doing, and we'll push men your way, right? That are looking for that. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for saying yes to this. I'm a big supporter and fan of the work you're doing, and I look forward to finding other opportunities to work together and to help inspire men to be the best version of themselves.
There you go. That's so important, right? That's what it's about, is just inspiring men that it's inside of them and to be the best version.
And what I say too is I want every man to feel like they're their greatest hero. Be your own hero.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
all right.
Thank you for having me down. I mean, I appreciate it.
No, it's an honor. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for all of you. We'll see you next time on the Burn Up Podcast.